So, another beautiful Saturday, sunny. That's very good. And today Munir won't be with us. He's having some time off. And let's start with a prayer. Master Jesus, spiritual friends, thank you for the opportunity of being part of this study, having the opportunity to be amongst friends, trying to improve what we know, what we are, getting prepared for more charitable work, more understanding of who we are, how we can get better, and give us the strength for another year. Increase our faith and help us out through any doubt or any turbulence we may have in our path. Be with us today and always. So be it.
So be it.
So let me share the book with you guys. I believe you can see the book now. I was jealous when I was watching the video from last Saturday. You guys talk a lot, you chat, you speak one with another, and I hope the same happens today again. So today we're starting for the item 9. Do spirits lift tables using the arms, which have become solidified somehow? Before I start to go through the answer, yesterday I was spending some time on the internet, something that's really not ideal, because the amount of time we waste on the internet nowadays, we could be doing something more positive. But I was watching some videos that I don't know if they're real or not real anymore. And there was even another video showing how things were like 2 years ago, that we could spot if it was a real video or not, and a video that can be done today. And they call that deep fake. I cannot identify if it's true or not. To what I saw yesterday, perhaps it's not me here on this video, someone else just using my appearance, my voice, and passing a message. So why I'm saying that? Because this increases our responsibility to evaluate the content of any message. 200 years ago, the spirits told us to evaluate the content of the message of the spirits. Nowadays, we need to evaluate the content of any message. Any message we see on a video, on the television, on WhatsApp, anything, we must be very attentive. If there is any doubt, put that aside, try to speak to the originator of the message. Example, if it's Pablo passing a message, call him, try to speak to him next time you see him, to see, Pablo, you really said that, because I felt that was a bit weird or was incomplete or something. Because nowadays it's very difficult. And people that may have different agendas, they may use that technology to disrupt and to create harm. Why I'm saying that? Because 200 years ago, we wouldn't be able to make some fake to the extent that a materialized spirit would lift something. It would be very difficult to make a fake one. And even like that, some people at that time, they did, but it was way difficult to convince attentive people that what they were seeing was true. But nowadays, it's hard. It's really hard. So let's be attentive, I think, is a good message to pass on this beginning of 2026, because we are going through an exciting moment in history, and we have tools that may create more harm than good. So let's be attentive. Let's not believe in everything we see or hear, because that may not be true anymore, and do not vibrate on the same symphony with those messages. Is very important, because nowadays, if you open a TV, 95% of what you see is not positive. If you listen to a radio, a lot of things are not positive, talking about disgraces, wars, possible wars, things that will lower our vibration, because we start to resonate with those messages, with those informations. And then some of us will become afraid. And then we become afraid, we lower our protections, our own protections, our barriers. And then we become more vulnerable to spirits that want to achieve that. So attention. We need to be attentive. This is be a good exercise to go through it. Now going back to the book. Hi, Charles.
Yes, Guillaume. And this morning I saw on the TV, Euronews, they have some dedicated time for showing the fake and the fake news and analyzing and showing if they are real or not. And this morning they showed a video of a French farmer who was crying, saying because they were about to kill his cows because of this dermatose illness, which is very contagious. And he was crying, saying that's a product of my whole life, and they are killing whatsoever. I mean, just showing the sadness of that of a farmer because they were killing his cows. And then they showed that it is a fake. You see for some deficiencies in the video. For instance, you have a cow, you see the backside of the cow, and all of a sudden this backside gets the front side of the cow, and demonstrating that the video was a fake. And they explained why are the people doing this, exploring difficult situation and sadness of people, simply to make money. Because if the video gets viral, so 100,000 like or whatsoever, they make money out of it.
Mm-hmm.
So this remembers me back. You told Guilherme that at the time of Kardec, it was not so easy to do fake. Pierre Gaëtan Lemarie were 1 year in the jail because of Buguet. He was doing pictures of people and in the background appearing pictures of spirits. And it has been demonstrated that it was fake. And Lemarie has been condemned because he was exploring financially something which was fake, even without knowing it was fake, And nowadays, the people make fake videos to earn money, and they are being getting money from all these systems and whatsoever, almost without any consequence anymore.
Yeah.
So it shows how these things have changed, and really nowadays it's sad to say this, but we have to be doubtful about everything we see in the social media. Because
Correct.
nowadays they can already, how many fake Kardec we have nowadays used by spiritists, showing Kardec aside of a spiritist leader with a big smile and whatsoever. Everything fake done by IA. So up to where shall we admit this, and up to where shall we really start to say, hey, stop with all this, because it's going too far. And that is really some food for our souls.
Imagine we are in the beginning of 2026. Some videos are so perfect that I cannot see. Of course, if I have someone with 3 legs, I'll start to make questions. But if I don't have something that obvious, because I don't have the expertise, to me they are real. It's hard to say they are not. So more things will come. Technology is increasing rapidly. So the recommendation from Kardec at that time, I think, is very important nowadays. Evaluate the content of the message. And it's not easy. It's hard to do this. Sometimes we may miss something, but we need to. And back in my home country, people used to call people faking voices, faking really, but people used to pay money because they think it's someone they love, they are in danger or something like that. Now, with those technologies we have nowadays, it's way easier to trick people. And it's good to be aware of those possibilities so we don't get into the panic mode when something happens. Then we try to investigate a bit. And as we get older, our sensibility is different, as you know, and then we don't perceive things in the same way. So we need to be careful. I think that evaluating the content of any message become easier with the practice. So as we give this incentive to people to evaluate the Spiritism, what we say, what we explain, what kind of message may come from the spirits, now it's become more like, let's use that for everything. And I think that the result will be positive. So let's go back to the book then. The answer to that question will not yet tell you what you want to know. When a table moves underneath our hands, it is because the spirit who has been evoked has taken enough of the universal fluid to infuse the table with artificial life. So what we understand from that sentence? And that sentence makes us think about so many other different things the Spiritism tells us as well, right? And what will be important to understand what is this energy, this fluid he's talking about. Science nowadays are discovering the new states of the matter, new energy, new fluids, new everything, right? But the spirits they brought to us that the origin is the universal cosmic fluid. And anything else that we may see, we may touch, we may feel, is a derivation of this fluid. So basically, the spirits that, as far as we know, come from a different origin, is able to manipulate this fluid to impregnate the table, and after that, he is able to move the table. So I believe that to do that, you need to have the minimum knowledge for how to do it. It's not something anyone will be able to do. When I mean anyone, any spirit will be able to do. You need to have some values pre-organized to be able to make it happen. If you don't have a medium around, possibly you won't be able to do it. If you don't have enough knowledge about how to handle the fluid, you won't be able to do it. If you don't have the approval from a high hierarchy to do so, I think also you won't be able to do it. So there's a lot of things to be coming together to allow that to happen. And again, here it's saying is an artificial life. It's not life as we understand ourselves or an animal, for example. Having prepared the table in this way, the spirit attracts it and moves it under the influence of its own fluid. What is this fluid he's talking about? Chances are that he's talking about his own perispirit, but ain't clear, all right? Which is emitted by exerting its own will. When we look to this last part of the sentence, we know that when we think, we create. Is the thought generated by this spirit that is able to move the fluid he impregnated the table? Is not clear to me. Hi, Patricia.
This part there is not clear. I was wondering if it could be the ectoplasm.
Is a fluid, yes. Is a possibility. Is a possibility. You know, but we have other fluids. That's why I'm saying it's a possibility, because ectoplasm would be my answer. Okay, but we have electricity. We have atomic energy. We have so many other things that we don't even know exist that could be used for that purpose. So that's why I say it's hard to tell, like it's casting a stone an answer. But I believe in due time, the answers will come. But is this important? Depends. Depends what you're looking for on the Spiritism. If you're looking for the results, how to help, how to be charitable, things like that, this will not bring much into the equation. But if you are using your abilities, your mediumship, your mediumistic characteristics to perform healing, for example, is important to know. It's important to do some research to understand better what we are talking about. When the object that it wants to move is too heavy for it, it asks for help of other spirits who possess similar characteristics. So it's a mechanic thing happening here, right? I can lift up to 50 kilograms on the limit. If I want to go to 60 kilograms, I need to ask someone else help to lift, even if I'm spirit. So is it the perispirit lifting the table? It's just the fluid? I don't have an answer for that. I have my thoughts, but doesn't mean it's right. Because it is ethereal nature, the spirit of itself cannot act upon dense matter without some kind of intermediary. That is, without the link that connected to the matter. This link is what you call the perispirit, and it provides the key to all physical spirit phenomena. So here he's inclining to say that the perispirit is doing it, but is the perispirits, is all perispirits sending energy to be able to do it, or we're coming with the hand and lifting the material? I believe I have explained the matter clearly enough to have made myself understood. Well, maybe, because every time we study the subject, every time we dive into this kind of information, it's clear, but it's not clear. So that means we have to study again, means that we have to do some additional research and so on. We would call attention to the sentence. The answer to that question will not yet tell you what you want to know. This spirit understood perfectly well that all the preceding questions had the sole purpose of leading to the question 9. he was referring to our thought. Herein, we had, in fact, anticipated a different response, i.e., one that would confirm our own idea about the way spirits move stable. And this here is very interesting because we all create different theories. My theory makes me more comfortable than Cherry's theory make me comfortable. And vice versa, because that's normal. We create theories that we are trying to explain what we think. I don't remember anybody creating a theory to explain what they don't believe. Maybe, but most of the people try to feel comfortable with what they believe, what they want to see as an answer. Are the spirits whom it calls upon to help of a less evolved nature? Are they under its orders? Are the spirits whom it calls upon to help of a less evolved nature? Are they under its orders? They are almost always its equals and come spontaneously. I have a problem with that word, or less evolved, that sentence, less evolved. Because that may bring to the table something that they are stupid, they don't know nothing. No, that's not what less evolved means, but that's what a lot of people believe, right? My mathematics teacher, he's more evolved in the subject than me does. That's why he is my teacher. Doesn't mean that he's a better human being than I am, you know? So I don't like to create those barriers when we say more evolved, less evolved, you know? And when we die, we'll be less evolved or we'll be highly evolved just because we died. We'll be what we are. I know more about a subject, Charles knows more about another subject, later know more about something else, and it doesn't mean that any of us, we are more or less evolved. If we're talking about morally evolved, it would be a bit different. Morally evolved comes from the exercise in the good, the amount of charity we do, if we properly learn what that means. Are all spirits able to produce phenomena of this kind? The spirits who produce them are always of a less evolved nature that is not yet entirely free of material influences. I would write in a different way. Spirits that can produce those phenomena, they are more attached to the matter than spirits that are less attached to the matter. We can understand that highly evolved spirits do not concern themselves with matters that are well below them, but we would like to know if they would have the ability to do so if they wanted to, since they are more dematerialized. The answer is interesting. They possess mental power as the other possess physical power. Then they have need of the latter. They employ those who have it. Haven't we already stated that they use lower order spirits in the same way that you employ porters? We have already stated that the density of the perispirit, if one may say so, varies according to the nature of the various worlds. It also seems to vary on the same world according to different individuals. Hi, Charles. You're mute.
To mention another bug in the translation, they say it's written they possess mental power, and the French original is saying they possess moral power.
Mm-hmm. And that is different. And that's very different. Having moral ability, moral evolution, not
And
necessarily,
authority.
yeah, is authority. Doesn't mean that they are not able to. So the answer does not say they are not able to. But for example, when I was young, I used to lift 50 kilograms in my work easily. Nowadays, I'll be struggling, so I need to ask for help. So another man from my team will come, and then we lift 25 each. Does it mean that I am not able to do? No, I can do under certain circumstances. Hi, Camila.
No, you said that about the model and the other kinds of intelligence, right? Like the other aspect is other characteristic with us, right? The spirits, whatever. Then came in my mind, right? It is not also things interligate, right? Because if in one life maybe we shape more our ability to think, to be more critical, to learn things that make us in some way also able to be better and to understand more other things, have another point of view that also help our moral progress. Are not both in some way correlated?
That question is tricky because there's a lot of things on it. We as spirits, we accumulate the knowledge that we are bringing from past lives. It does not mean that I have access to all those informations. I may have access to partial degree of information of what I have experienced. I believe that spirits, they are doing such activity, they've been prepared, and they could have been prepared by previous existences, previous acquired knowledge, or they have been prepared on the spiritual world for this particular activity. The second part of what I said, we can find resonance on the Spiritist books. The first part of what I said, we can find partial resonance on the Spiritist books. That's why I said what I think. Okay? And where the moral play with all of that? Let's go back to Kardec's time, where he was using spirits, not Kardec, where the spiritual world were using spirits to have turning tables left and right. There was not an accident. There was definitely not an accident. There was a wave bringing that phenomena into the world to get some people attention until the moment they got the attention of the right person, that was Kardec. So behind the spirits who were entertaining those parties, those saloons in Europe or in America, must have been a higher being coordinating those activities. It does not mean that he was better than those spirits turning the tables. It means that he was supervising what was happening. And perhaps what brings him to that condition of supervising those activities was his moral, because he had endured enough experience in his past life, and he brought on board what the charity really means, what love really means. So he acquired through his own experiences over centuries a degree of moral elevation that would allow him to be in a supervisor position to coordinate a group of spirits doing those activities. I'm using the word supervisor to give a better understanding of what I'm trying to transmit. The spiritual world is organized. Our meeting, spiritual meeting, spiritual mediumship meetings are organized. There is one spirit that is the coordinator of everything that's happening below. Why he is the coordinator? First, he knows better how to coordinate. Second, he has been through these degrees of experiences before. He has moral evolution to, he speaks on somebody, yes, you're right. It's a process. So I believe same happens during Kardec's time, because this is the logic behind that phenomena. After Kardec started to go through the Spiritism, built up the Spiritism, what happened? The turntable virtually disappeared, stopped. If it wasn't a coordinated movement to organize that, to bring that to our attention, we would have turning tables everywhere until today. Can we have that nowadays? Yes, we can. Because the mediums are here, the fluids are here. People that don't have anything to do, they want to have fun, they are everywhere. So we still have the same scenario, if you like, but there's not the same need anymore. Imagine today having turntables with all this AI we were talking about in the beginning. Would serve to any purpose? Very unlikely. Very unlikely. Nowadays, I believe, only things that are not related to matter will bring more what we need. Because things related to matter today may not bring anything into the table anymore. Or it's so easy to be reproduced or make either fake news or anything else like that, that make things more complicated than help. Did I answer partially your question?
Yes, answered. Maybe my thought was out of the context, because it came in my mind things like, for example, the Greeks and the Romans, when they look at the triumph, right? Like that they believe that the body need to be good, so they do exercise, right? The machine need to be good for developing the other things. They believe that they need to study philosophy and all things because they for find the triumph that it would be like the perfection, right? Would also develop the mind in all aspects, right? So what came in my mind was like, okay, we can say that it's more involved because must to have the moral. The moral need to be because it's the law of God, right? The moral things, right? If the person is too smart but is mean, is Greek, you'll be disturbed, right? The spirit will be disturbed, you'll be tormented, right? But so cannot be involved anyway. But if it's not something that for we be able to grow, doesn't involve everything, right? Like it's like a complete. That maybe that's why it takes so long, like a complete. I don't know if I could.
The way I see, moral evolution is a process. We know about the law of progress. We don't have a time frame for the law of progress. We don't have a manual for the law of progress. We know the law of progress exists. The evolution to allow us to become a little bit more evolved is part of the reincarnation process. Let's go a bit earlier in the history where we were on caves. We all were on caves. Regardless of where we came from, we were all on caves. Down the road, we went to the Stone Age, we went to the Iron Age, blah, blah, blah. You, for example, you were on a cave. After you went to Greece, where you worship the body as part of evolution. After you went to the Middle East, where you were Muslim and then you prioritize prayer. After you went to another country where you have been exposed only to material experiences. And today you are in a condition that you are more morally evolved because you pass through all those layers of evolution. So any spirit to be considered as a morally evolved, he's been passing through all those layers. And I would say something that may even shock other people, because some people sometimes they are not contemplate that possibility. Even Christ, he was on a cave, he was experienced material existences, he was experienced different point of views. He before he was Christ, he was everything down the scale. Because he was passing through those layers on the scale, he became Christ. He was morally evolved as a result of every single past experience he had. There are others more evolved than him. And we all can achieve, as he said himself, we are all gods. But to become a god, we need to go through those layers. And the time frame to achieve a degree of evolution, who knows how long that will be, right? So back to what we started, those spirits coordinating the turning tables, the phenomena of turning tables in different countries to allow Kardec to get Kardec's attention. There was a group of spirits getting together, a group of spirits with a high evolution, higher than our evolution, got together to make it happen. So it's a process, but I think we are going too much into the philosophy here. So if you go into the practice, we need to be hands-on in any different types of experiences to allow us to acquire what we need to move to different experiences. When you join a company, an enterprise, you start making coffee, you start going to the printer, you start with things that you can do. Eventually, after decades, you can become a CEO of this company if you put yourself into this. On the spiritual world, it's the same. We all start making coffee and going to the printer. It's up to us if you want to stay making coffee and going to the printer forever, or if you want to go to different experiences in the company to grow up. You all right?
All right. I would like good morning to everybody. I'm sorry that I was late today. Man, interesting because I received from somebody one communication, and it was exactly about what to say. Said the last minutes, Guilherme. People, no, spirits or person, people from another planet, much longer away from here. May I speak Portuguese? It's very quickly. True.
Yes, but then anybody will understand.
Okay, I will try to my English. And they very interesting because they once we will compare our civilization here because it's a lot of faraway galaxy also, and they said make it very moody. I don't know in English
Humble.
moody. Thank you. And he confessed, he said, they live in 1 million years from us advanced civilization. So, but they had no more their system or their planet, and also they don't have hate. They don't know what's hate, jealous. They help each other because it is natural for them, total natural for them. And but they come to us because they would like to see and feel what is at embrace each other at that sorry at the Swedish to embrace each other to say I love you, I like you very much. They would like to know more about fraternity. See, because they have, but they have a little bit. We can say here for us, we are human being. We understood. I think they would say that they was cold, cold. So they helped each other. Everything go very, very good there, but they is for humility to say that they would like to know about that. They interesting because this is who I have a very, very nice ears, long, 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 and they say so many fine things. They are not spirits, so they are elevate, but they are not spirits elevate.
Yeah, let me jump in here.
They're interesting that I know that I think that I believe that.
I think that we have two things that we can use from what you said. One, yes, there are different planets, different worlds. We believe they exist. We believe they can be in different degrees of evolution. Evolution does not mean morally evolved. This could be something else. A place with high technology does not mean is a place with high moral evolution. A place with a lot of laws does not mean is the place with a lot of evolved people. And doesn't matter. We don't need to go away from our world. In our home world, in our planet, we can have examples like that. And I, in particular, try not to divagate a lot of what exists in other worlds, because we don't know what exists here. Likewise, a lot of people love to talk about evolved spirits. We have difficulty to understand the spirits in our level. How can we understand and talk about very high spirits? Very unlikely. And I prefer to resonate with things that are closer to us instead of trying to divagate from things that are too far away from us. But yes, there's a lot of things over there, and eventually we're all going to be on the same degree of moral evolution, but how long that will take is down to us. In morally advanced spirits, it is subtle and come close to the perispirits of high order entities. What we understand here is that as we evolve, the density of our perispirits become lighter. Let me give another simple example here. Someone, a ballerina, very unlikely she will lift 200 kilograms in the gym. But if you go and ask a bodybuilder, he will do that easily, because they have different physical constitutions. They were being prepared in a different way. On the other hand, in low order spirits, it is closer to matter. And this is what causes the persistence of the illusion of earthly life in such spirits, who think and act as if they were still physically alive, possessing the same desires, and we could almost say the same sensuality. There are spirits that when they disconnected, they are very close to the matter. We know that. We see that every day in a mediumship meeting. There are others that are a little bit more distant from that. a lot of people on the Spiritism ask themselves, well, when I discarnated, I want to go to Astral City. I want to go to Nosso Lar, blah. Well, I don't think I will. I'm so close to Earth. I love a Big Mac. I love ice cream. I'm too close to Earth. So I have this aspiration. One day I'll be going to a place like that. But I don't think I will. Not when I discarnated, if I'm able to stay here close to you guys, trying to help somehow, trying to evolve, trying to learn, I'll be happy. You know, and we have to remember that spiritual world and physical world, they are intermeshing. So I don't think I'll be able to go that far. But a lot of people believe that when they die, because they were spiritists, they go to a nice place like Astral City. On the other hand, in low order spirits, it is closer to matter. Oh, I read that already. Okay. This density of the perispirit, which lends a greater affinity to matter, is what enables low order spirits to be more skillful at physical manifestations. It is similar to why a refined person with a fragile and delicate body and who is used to intellectual endeavors cannot lift heavy loads like a porter can. The matter of his or her body is somewhat less compact. The organs are less resilient and the neural fluids is less intense. Basically what I said, giving the example of the ballerina and the bodybuilder, right? The perispirit is for the spirit what the body is for the individual. Its density results from the less purified nature of the spirit. Hence, this density replaces muscular strength, i.e., it gives it greater power over the fluids needed for this type of manifestation than a spirit of more ethereal nature possesses. If a more evolved spirit wants to produce such effect, it does what frail persons among us would do. It employs a spirit of the trade. We know, we have examples like in André Luiz, where his mom, to be able to communicate with him, she had to do like a materialization in the spiritual world because she was in a different place, a more lighter place. I will not say the word evolved, but she was in her density, her perispirit, her body density was lighter than where her son was. So she had to go through a process equivalent as a materialization to be able to have that contact. So that is what makes ourselves understand a little bit better how that difference between density or difference between bodies. If we correctly understand what you have said, the vital principle lies in the universal fluid. The spirit draws the semi-material envelope that comprises its perispirit from this fluid. And it is through this fluid that it acts upon matter. Is this so? Have you guys understood the question? Is this question clear for you all? Good. I hope so, because nobody said anything different. Just so that's very good. Yes, it means that it animates matter with a sort of artificial life. Matter becomes infused with animal life. The table that moves under your hands is alive with animal-like life and obeys the intelligent being itself. The spirit itself does not push the table as if it were some kind of physical load. And when the table rises into the air, the spirit is not lifting it with its arms. Instead, the animated tables obey the impulse given to it by the spirit. So that brings a bit more clarity. I personally have a hard time to see that, right? But that's the answer they give. Because I'm still very low order spirit. To me, I see my perispirit trying to push the table. makes more sense to me, you know, but that's not the answers we have from the spirit, from the spirits. In the reality, what they are saying is that me as a discarnated being do not use my perispirit to push. I use my spirit to control the fluids that control the matter. Because perispirit and spirit are two different things. Remember that sometimes not understanding that difference between the spirit and the perispirit make a single balloon for both makes a bit more complicated to understand few explanations the spirits gave to us. What is the role of a medium? What role does the medium plays in this phenomenon? I have already said that the medium's own fluid is combined with the universal fluid accumulated by the spirit. The uniting of both the animalized, that's our fluid, and the universal fluid is required in order to handle the table with life. However, you must not forget that life is only momentary. It stops with the cessation of the fluid's action, and often before the process is fully complete, as soon as the amount of the fluids is no longer sufficient to animate the table. So the process may be interrupted if there is not enough fluid to continue doing the phenomena. Can a spirit act without resorting to a medium? It can act without the medium being aware of it. In other words, many persons help spirits to produce certain phenomena without even suspecting it. These persons are like fountains from which spirits draw the animal fluids they need. Consequently, the conscious participation of a medium, as you know, is not always necessary, especially with the spontaneous phenomena. Came to my mind here 2 years ago, I think. I was asking, I'll let you speak, Camila, very shortly. I was asking one of the benefactors that work with us why a couple of mediums were having the sensation that we're donating energy during a mediumship meeting. And the answer we had was very simple, because we are collecting this energy to be used elsewhere to help other beings. So basically what is described here. We donate energy. This energy can be accumulated by another spirit and use this energy in conjunction with the cosmic fluid to move some table as example. Hi, Camila.
Actually, I would like to make a question for you because you were speaking about the fluids and whatever came a scenario in my mind where the person described that he has this kind of perturbation many and many times and he doesn't know what it means, right? She saw spirits that are involved, more involved, right? Less involved, like more like obsession, right? Always when she get up in the bed, you always see they trying doing things in with the hands on top of this person, and you also once saw doing that with the dog and removing like something with a lot of light and give a lot of anger in the person, like it was like removing something precious from the dog, right? The person is medium and it has the ability to see things, right? So, what you can describe that? I don't know if you saw something similar. Could it be removing the fluids Like in this scenario, because it is the person see they doing things with the hands on top of her and the dog removing
Yeah, let's go step by step. The understanding of the person may play a significant role in what the person sees, right? If you speak, for example, with some spiritists that they have aversion of spirits that work on another mediumistic activities other than the spiritism, they may interpret those spirits that were removing those fluids as a low evolved spirits, and sometimes they are not. So the interpretation of the person is very important to evaluate that. We know that low order spirits, they may come closer to you to absorb your energy depending on your choices, depending on your actions, depending on who you are. They can get closer to you, and then you start to have like a trade of energy. You give yours, he gives his, and then that's a kind of resonance between the spirit and the incarnated spirits, and could be considered as an obsession. For example, every time we go to the bar, we start to drink, spirits that they are yet to go away from the alcohol, they come closer to you. They cannot drink the alcohol themselves, but they can get the fluids of the alcohol through your body, so they can, it's like they can aspire, they can suck from you the fluid of the alcohol. So this is a possibility. But nothing happens without approval. What that means, if you are doing what you're supposed to be doing, you have the barriers to protect you against those situations. So a spirit may try to come closer to you, but you do your gospel at home, you do your activities, you do your prayer, you practice charity, you have a barrier. It's not coming like that. So when somebody paint a picture like you did, I like to go step by step, eliminating everything before I say what I think. And I will not be able to do so because I never had directly contact with those informations. I'm just giving you some information so you all can think like how we can scrutinize something to make an evaluation of the scenario. Okay? Getting something from the animal. Yeah, the animal is a little spirit. Not like our spirit. Some people say they are not even spirits, but I used to call it spirit with a better understanding. But they have thoughts, they have feelings, so they have some sort of spirits with them. So yes, they do have energies that can be used, like vegetables too, like trees and flowers, things like that. Everything on earth is made of energy. Everything on earth can be used to good and evil. So the scenario you painted to me had to be studied, had to be better evaluated to come to a theory. A theory does not mean that is a firm fact. You're right. And what would I do in this kind of evaluation? How is the person? What the persons like to do? What the persons eat? What the persons drink? Is the person using drugs, not using drugs? How is the day-to-day of the person? How is this person reacting on the day-to-day of life? Because those are questions that is important if you're trying to establish some theory. Because we spiritists like to say, oh, there is an obsession. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes we are alone on the process, but we like to justify that is someone creating the process. So it's a very complicated matter when you're trying to say, yeah, it's an obsession. Because the painting you showed to us today is the person believing she's under some kind of influence or obsession because the spirit's above me doing something, I'm doing something with my dog. So it's a process. It's a process. I wouldn't say is or is not. but I would be careful doing evaluation. And as ever, I do not incentive anyone to evaluate someone saying it's an obsession or what, because we can be very, very wrong. And if we do say something like that, we may end up creating more harm than help.
I would say it's more like a perturbation for the person, right? Because obsession is too strong. Is too strong, right? Something that you
They,
perturbs the
we,
person.
we all are under influence of spirits 24/7, period. We all are. The degree of influence of spirits in our life are dictated by our choices, what we do, how we do, and a few other things that we won't have time to discuss about that today. But we all are surrounded by spirits, good or not so good. And even Chico Xavier was exposed to good and not so good spirits around him. So who we are in comparison with him, you know what I mean? So we all are surrounded. The thing is, with kind of spirits I will resonate. So, but it is our time. That was a lovely study. So I will stop recording, stop sharing first, stop recording.
Thank you, by the way. Thank you all for the patience.
Did I stop